Welcome to Sales Training for Podcasters, the podcast designed to better your sales process. We'll be sharing tools, tips, and techniques, whether you love sales or hate sales. If you've got a product or service to sell and a podcast, you've come to the right place. Now, here's your hosts, podcast strategists, Doug Sandler and JJ Flizanes.
Welcome, everyone, to Sales Training for Podcasters. Today's show is with Karen Briscoe. Karen is the creator of the transformative 5-minute success concept. She's got 2 books, Real Estate Success in 5 Minutes a Day, Secrets of a Top Agent Revealed, and Commit to Get Leads, 66-Day Challenge. They offer a combination of information and inspiration delivered through memorable stories. Her most recent book, Flip Time, Love Life, is a heroine's journey tale about loving the life you have while you create and co-create the life of your dreams.
So today, the level of excitement for me is huge because not only was Karen Briscoe, she was one of my initial clients with Turnkey Podcast Production, but she is actually the elite of the elite when it comes to selling. So you heard her full intro already, but I have to emphasize this. She and her team have sold over 1,500 homes valued at over $1.5 billion. So that's billion with a B. So I know that she's not afraid of the word sales or selling. It's not a 4-letter word to her, but I want to talk to her about it and take a deeper dive. I'm excited to talk to her. Welcome, Karen, to Sales Training for Podcasters.
Doug, always a pleasure, and JJ, and I know that my connections with the nice guys on business just continues to keep on keeping on.
It is amazing what relationships can do for you. And maybe we'll start there, as relationships is a part of the sales process. So you've been selling since 1977, is that right? Or somewhere around there in real estate?
So the team, the HBC Group of Keller Williams, which is based in the Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C. metro region, has been around since 1977. I actually graduated from college in 81, so that's actually when I started my career in real estate, and that was in dirt. So that was where I launched my career, and then entered into the real estate residential side in 2001, right after 9/11, and then met with success right away because I like to say I have what's called the hard and soft side skills, Doug, which I'm sure you're going to want to hear about that. So the soft sides are what you mentioned, right? That relationship building and emotions play into that because many times people make their decision on emotions, but then they justify it on logic. I'm sure you've heard that before. So my hard side skills come out of my commercial background, and that is negotiation, market knowledge, strategy, that type of thing.
So Karen, this show is designed for anyone that wants to build a business through their podcast, through selling whatever. And we know you sell through your podcast. But before we get into what you're selling, because this podcast is also for people who hate sales and hate selling. And I want to know your relationship. Doug just basically said, but it was coming out of his mouth, not yours. So I'd like you to go further into that about your relationship to the word selling and to sales. Like, were you excited to get in there and start talking to people and getting in there, or was there any apprehension? Did you have any negative feelings about selling?
It was actually all negative and apprehension because when I came out of the commercial side, I was doing all the hard skills. I wasn't really doing the people skills. And I really had this perception, which a lot of people do, of real estate agents as being a little bit, one level up above used car salesmen. And I knew people like at church and stuff that, you didn't want to get close to them because they'd, attack you. And I was like, I don't want to be perceived as that pushy type person. And so I had all these, limiting beliefs and perceptions about salespeople. So I went at it with a heart and commitment to service. So I looked for ways I could help and add value and to meet people's needs. And that's where I used my hard skills. I have really strong market knowledge skills, being able to analyze markets, which I learned in a unique way because I came out of the commercial side. But I really do care about people. I actually went to seminary for some time and thought I was going to go into the ministry. And so I really do have a heart for people. I have found actually that buying and selling a home is one of the most emotionally stressful events in people's lives. In fact, it's on the stress-o-meter along with the other reasons why many times people are buying or selling a home, and that is death, divorce. Those are the two highest reasons. Then you have some of the positive ones, when people have diapers, when they have children, diamonds, getting married. On the other end of the spectrum, you have downsizing. Even when people get dogs, they often think about buying and selling a home. And so there's always something else going on in people's lives, and so able to help them through that process. And so it is entirely relationship building as far as I'm concerned. And the skill of helping people through the process is the way I look at it.
So, Karen, one of the interesting things that I have noticed and about you, I mean, we've known each other for several years now, and I've watched it grow up in this podcasting space. And it's like you came here already ready to go from a sales perspective, at least in my mind. But in your profession, within real estate, you see, I'm sure, a ton of newbies coming in. And what advice do you normally give to those new people that are just about to get into real estate sales? And maybe it's completely transferable into the world of podcasting as well when it comes to selling. As it relates to selling, how do you explain to them, hey, here's how the game works?
It really has a very high attrition rate. Real estate is a profession that's relatively easy to enter compared to what you potentially can earn. And so a lot of people enter it. And they often enter it because they like people and they like houses. That's what I hear most commonly. It's actually not much to do with the actual house. It has to do with being a lead generator. So it's a lead generation business. And the reason why most people don't make it, and actually statistics are only a lot of statistics, but the most common one is only 6% make it 5 years. So we have a lot of fallout in the residential real estate world. So the lead generation is a commitment. And when I wrote my book, Real Estate Success in 5 Minutes a Day, which is what the podcast 5 Minute Success is based on, the first component of it is commit to get leads, because it really is a commitment. Most people, I find, they do it when they feel like it, or they do it when their pipeline's empty, or they do it when they're don't have anything else to do. And because of that, then the pipeline does get empty, and they wake up after they've done a deal and have nothing to work on. And so I tell people, you really don't have anything to do until you have a lead. So that commitment. And the amazing thing is it is very transferable, Doug, because I realized very quickly that it's the same for podcasting and finding podcast guests. It was the commitment to the lead generation for curating the guests, that I wanted to have on my podcast.
So Karen, one of the things that we're kind of reviewing with people on the show is their selling style. And what I heard you say is that you lead with service, right? So would you define your selling style as service-based?
I do look for opportunities of service. Because if you think about it, in my industry, people are most likely to make a move when they're about to have a life event. And so I just shared a lot of the life events. Now, I'm not saying I'm an ambulance chaser because I'm not. But I do send a sympathy card when someone in my church, has had a family member pass. And I have, even on Facebook, I've had family members of friends, pass away, and I'll just write a note and say, let me know if I could ever help. And it's amazing how often they do reach out. And so, again, I don't want to say ambulance chasing is the only way. People often move when they get a dog. People often move when they're downsizing, when the last kid goes off to college or high school or gets married or some event like that happens. I look for opportunities for when they're most likely to need my service. Another way that I found is very beneficial is market knowledge. So by having a strong knowledge of the market, then when the conversation does come up, which it almost always does, as soon as people find out what business I'm in, they want to know how the market is. And as soon as I can find out where they live, then I can start talking about their neighborhood. Usually can sell all the houses I've sold in their neighborhood. And then there we go. We're already having a conversation.
So what I love about your tactics for getting leads and filling your pipeline, I have one of my ex-clients, one of my very first clients that I had for many, many years was a real estate agent. And I got to watch firsthand their business and what they would do. And sort of like you, sending the cards, and they'd send holiday cards, and they'd make their prospecting where they would call like every week. They would spend time on the phone calling old prospects, and they got all their business pretty much from referrals from their clients and friends and family of clients. And so it was a very relationship-based business with some advertising, but not too much. However, I know, like you said, used car salesman sort of like underneath, real estate. And if I'm thinking about events I've been to, networking events, I didn't like the real estate people because they were pushy. Most of them would come in terms of sales style, in terms of, and I'm going into the story because I kind of want to know if you have like a mantra or some boundaries, like really clear for yourself.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I do. It's brilliant what you just talked about, because this is how I differentiated myself. And I believe I have differentiated myself. So first boundary is when I'm somewhere that is not a real estate function, I don't talk about real estate. They have to bring it up. And if I don't know the person at all, let's say I'm at a summit networking event, then if they don't know them, then my pickup line is I ask them where they live. And then by where they live, I often can have a conversation about real estate without actually talking about me being a real estate agent, although it often comes out. And then I follow up. The other aspect to a business like mine, which is very personal, and people often know many real estate agents, it's a very saturated industry, is that I don't take it personal when they don't pick me. And that is really a key element. If you've ever seen the movie You've Got Mail with Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks, way back in the day when we had AOL dial-up, and they met, and they didn't know each other, but they were competitors, right? He was the big bad Fox big bookstore that was putting her little bookstore around the corner out of business. And they're talking, and she's asking him for advice. And he says, it's not personal, it's business. So I compartmentalize the business aspect of it and the relationship aspect of it. So if I'm a friend with a person and they don't pick me for real estate, I don't take it personally, and I don't change my relationship with them, because the way I look at it, if I did, I really was being a friend just so I could do business with them at some point, which is what offends most people. And when people find out that I really do mean it, I really do release them to the universe to do what's best for them. And in many cases, they come to me because they know that I will treat their business like business and their friendship like friendship. And they feel much more confident with the ability to navigate a personal transaction under that framework.
So, Karen, I want to go back to something you said a few moments ago, just about like the process, and that it's a numbers game, or maybe that you have to keep your pipeline filled. And all of that sounds to me like there's a system behind the system of what you do. So talk to those that are maybe either, I don't want to say struggling, because I don't think that's the right word, because some people can not have a system and still be highly successful. They just don't know why they've been successful, which makes it really hard to measure. So can you share a little bit about just like a sales system or approach, or something that you do that's like, hey, these are the have-tos for me. I have to prospect every day. I have to XYZ every day. What are those things that you put into your sales system?
Yes, absolutely. Lead generation has to occur every day. And the reason why I know that is because I actually took a sabbatical for 3 months when I was writing my book, thinking, 15 years of real estate, I could take 3 months off. And my pipeline just dried up and there was nothing coming in. I have this philosophy. I'm sure you've heard of the law of attraction. But my perspective on the law of attraction is I'm sitting out into the universe, I'm ready, willing, and able to help you with your real estate needs vibes. When I put out that energy, when I stop sending out that energy and those messages, then it shuts down and the universe says, she's on vacation, she's not ready and willing and able to help any client. So I'm going to send it to somebody else. So I believe in consistent commitment to lead generation. I follow what I call activity blocking. So many sales coaches and trainers talk about time blocking. They'll say 9 to 11 every day, you get on the phone and call people for 2 hours. for me, that's like putting me in prison. And also, to me, it doesn't have any measurability to it other than the time. And the one thing I've discovered about time is many people find a way to use that time and not get anything actually productive done. So that actually came out of our daughter when she was young in elementary school, had some learning disabilities, and we had sent her to, tutor after tutor, and she still didn't ever get her homework done. She didn't ever make any progress. And so we found this one woman who did what you call homework club, and you basically went till you did the homework, which was the point, right? And it just turned everything around. When Callie knew that her strategies to avoid doing the work didn't work, she started doing the work. So that's why I'm a believer in activity blocking. So activity, how many a day? I base it on working day. I'm a very old-fashioned paper kind of person. I literally write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on every day of a paper calendar. And once I've done my 5, then I'm, released to go do other activities. If I am going to be busy on certain days and I work ahead, I call that front loading. If I come back from vacation, I may be backfilling. The benefits of activity blocking are numerous. You'll actually be able to track where your business is coming from. I'm a huge tracker of where my business is coming from. What you focus on expands. I want to expand on the customer avatar that is my ideal client. I want to attract more of those. And so I focus on that. We even actually created our client avatar and what our ideal client looked like. And by tracking, you will actually know where your business is coming from. You'll know whether 5 a day is sufficient. But I tell most of them, start with 5 a day, because most people can commit to that and do it, because I don't want to really hear about all the things you could or would have, should have done. I want to know what you will do, what you can do and will do, and that you will do consistently for a time. Because I'm sure you've heard the Jerry Seinfeld strategy for becoming a comedian about his calendar.
Nope.
Oh, wow. Okay. Jerry Seinfeld. Somebody asked him early on, how did you become a successful comedian? He said, I wrote a joke every day. And they said, okay. He said, I got a wall calendar and I just put it on the wall. And every day I wrote a joke, I put a big red X through it. And the idea was to not break the chain. And by, the quality became in the quantity, and the commitment to he was going to write a joke every day that was his commitment.
Well, there's something to be said about momentum, right? And I know, because I teach law of attraction and you're using law of attraction. So there's an understanding there of positive momentum. And for a lot of people, taking any action is how you can start that positive momentum. Now, not always, because some people start that positive momentum out of anxiety and from scarcity of needing to pay the bills, and that is not a good energy to have underneath that. And I think that's the energy that I'm talking about when we talk about salespeople, and that story that I was about to tell in terms of people coming in at those networking events. And, I'd have 3 real estate agents shove their card in my face before they even asked anything about me. And I know that's not you, but that is some of the, the energetic feedback. And I was like, oh my God. And I would never even look at them. Like, you would never get my business if you did something like that. Now, I want to go back to a point that you had made about not taking things personally. And for a lot of people in sales, regardless of what you're selling, especially when you're selling something that is of yours, like a book or a program or coaching, it can get very personal, and people can get extremely upset and offended and sad and not understand why, and confused when someone doesn't buy from them. So I know that you don't take it personally now, but did you ever? And how did you transition from taking it personally to not taking it personally?
Of course, absolutely. I took it personally a lot. I mean, my husband created this, bulletproof vest for me to mentally put on every time I would go out. What I found was that actually kind of created more negative energy, right? Because I was expecting to get shot at. So then I was putting my bulletproof vest on. So a lot of, strategies. One is, releasing them to the universe, because, I frequently will say it must be something going on in their life. And so I just must not understand it. So I'm going to release it. It's not about me. It's about them. I also saw what happened to people. Actually, my deceased partner, Sue Huckabee, who was the one that started the business in 1977. And although she sold thousands of homes and was very loved, she took it personally. I mean, she really, like, there were certain people she wouldn't talk to at the country club or the church or like that. And I was like, I don't want that for my life. So some of it was, I saw what happened long term when it didn't work. And so it was a choice. It was a decision I made, and I have to continually make it. I mean, I'm human. I do take things personally, but I do change the way I look at it, because like Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at something, then the way you look at it changes. So only one I could change is me. I can't change them or the situation. What I do find, though, is the energy does change. So often it comes back in some way. And but what you said earlier about the people that are coming at you and kind of force feeding their card, they're coming again out of lack. So they don't have enough business. Right. So when you have an overflow and abundance of opportunity coming and people want to work with you, then it's much easier, right, to come from a place of generosity and giving instead of need and, I got to have this business kind of perspective.
It's really interesting, Karen, as you're talking, I'm relating to so many of the things that you are saying. I mean, you're dropping like nuggets of wisdom, like left and right. And these are just things that are just popping from your head because
I've lived it.
Yeah. Because you've lived it. I can remember my mom was a real estate agent for almost 40 years. She's in her mid 80s now, and she put down her license probably about 5 years ago or so. And she was just like your partner, Karen, and I'm sorry, your partner,
Sue.
Yes. Sue, right? Your partner, Sue, in that she did take everything personally, and she would see those people in the grocery store and kind of turn the other way, the ones that didn't use her. She always would get so offended when people, and you're 100% right. So there's a nugget of wisdom there as you're listening to that, and you're in the sales community that we are serving through this podcast. Or in the community and looking at sales, know, number one, that you can't take this personally. It is not something that they are doing to you. That's number one. The other thing that you mentioned, which I think is so cool, because where Sue, it sounds like she showed up in your life is at a time when maybe she played the role. And again, maybe I misinterpreted, maybe I didn't, just as how I was hearing it. Was she like your mentor?
Oh, absolutely. And so brilliant. I mean, so many ways. It was just that one area, and we met at church. And so I saw it happen at church. And so that was why when I said to you in the beginning, JJ, that, when I saw people at church, there was a mortgage lender that they would just like run the other direction. I'm like, well, I'm not going to be that person. So I want people to know. And when I did start to work with someone at church, I would share with them when we met that I would be happy to talk with them about the real estate needs in a business setting. But when I go to church, I'm there, to worship and be in fellowship and community with people, and that, we could set up a separate time. And when people learned that I had those boundaries and they were no longer concerned that I might talk about their situation or something with people, then they just really relaxed. I think that's, a lot of the unknowns and fears are related to there's a lot of personal information in our profession, but even on a commodity, right, like a book. I mean, I remember in the beginning I used to take it personally when people wouldn't write me a review on Amazon, even family members. And I'm like, really? I would write a review for you. And so it doesn't have to just be real estate. It could be your sales course, or your if you're selling a health program or whatever. I mean, that's where what I found is that I myself can take care of me, and that's the only person I can take care of, but that the positive energy that I send out, or whatever energy I send out, but my intent is to send out positive and for their good, and that often comes back in a positive way, right?
So let me go back to, in addition to that, the process and the personal versus the impersonal, handling it just differently. If you're someone that gets a negative comment from somebody that's not going to use you, yes, I think that's key. How instrumental, though, was someone like Sue in your life as a mentor? Because we really haven't spoken that much through the course of, now we're coaches, both JJ and myself are coaches in the podcasting space. So we know the importance of coaching and being a part of a community and having some level of accountability. And I know you are as well. So maybe just speak to your side of, hey, talk about the importance of having a mentor in your life or someone that can lead you through the process when you don't know exactly where to go.
Well, it's really the same reason why I went to you, Doug, and Turnkey and Strick was because when I first was in the residential real estate space, I was working with another agent, a very small company and team, and I learned a lot from him. I remember my first year, I sold one house a month, which was 12, which was like, rookie status. It was pretty good. And he said to me, well, you're going to sell a house a week. And I'm like, you're crazy. A house a week, that's 52 houses a year. But there was something about it that put it in my head that was possible. I was like, well, who does that? And I looked around, and that's when I recognized the person I knew from church, Sue Huckabee, who was doing that. She was actually selling more like 2 a week. And that attraction to wanting to know, because I felt like, well, she'd already figured it out. I mean, I could spend time figuring it out, and I'm a pretty smart person. But I was like, well, but she's already figured it out. I mean, just think about, I would already start at a level, right? It's kind of like those video games our kids used to play, Mario Kart, whatever. I'd already go to several levels up. And so I was like, I want to spend my creative energy on the things that are creative, right? Instead of just the how did you do it kind of thing. And so I immediately recognized the value in that. And then, 15 years later, when I went and decided to write a book, same thing. The first thing I did was I went and talked to everybody I knew who'd written a book. And then when I said podcasting, I'm going to be a podcaster, I talked to the people that I knew how to do podcasts because there's, success leaves clues. And you can elevate yourself so much faster, and you can break through ceilings faster. That's one of the benefits of coaching, right? Because most people's own talent and skills and ability, knowledge, will take them so far. And then to go to the next level, it really needs to take, somebody's knowledge from, think about how you elevate anything of value, right? You have to improve it in some way.
Well, I think it was really smart of you to get a mentor. And it was a great question, Doug, because a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to do this on my own. I'm going to figure it out on my own. I'm smart enough. I've been successful in other areas. And so I'm going to do this. And it's actually the reason why Doug and I created our mastermind, our podcast mastermind, because I was watching so many podcasters, even with coaches, pretty terrible coaches actually, who hadn't really done what they wanted to do and said, we can help them because we're doing what they want to do. That person hasn't done what they want to do. And so we're here based on service to really cut that time because that's what we were. We were podcasters that tried it on our own and we had some help and support, but not a lot. And so we had to fumble and fall and figure it out on our own. And we just wanted to help people streamline it a little faster so it wouldn't take so long and they wouldn't give up. But I want to go back to what we talked about in terms of your learning how to not take it personally. And the reason why I'm harping on this is because we wanted to start this podcast because of our sales training backgrounds and what we're offering other people, because too many people, like Doug represents the person who has no problem with sales. Sales is not a dirty word. They feel fine about it. No negative attachment. And I kind of represent all the people who, get nervous or feel confronted or feel a lack of self-worth or confidence around selling anything, especially themselves. And so that journey that you took, I want to plug for anyone that, because we're not talking about it on this show necessarily. We will talk about it in future courses and in the mastermind. But if anyone needs immediate answers for some of those law of attraction conversations, please go to Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. There's a show called Releasing Expectation from Others, and there's several shows that would address this very topic. Now, when you're selling in person, it's a lot easier and faster and in a way more encompassing energetically to make a connection and to have a relationship and to feel like you're being of service because you're in person. But let's talk about now switching over to selling on a podcast. What would you think is the difference? What have you found, if there is a difference, of selling by having a podcast and how you use your podcast for selling versus what you're doing in real estate?
I think of podcasting as being, when you were talking about masterminding, which was the concept from Napoleon Hill, and the idea of when you have, 2 or more like-minded people the energy that's created is actually greater than that. And the amazing thing about podcasting is that you can reach so many people. I mean, my profession is still pretty much a one-on-one kind of a profession as a real estate agent. And I feel honored and blessed that I have helped so many people. But when you think about the impact you can make podcasting, it is really exponential, right? And when you're talking about, the limiting belief people have of coaching or masterminding or, any kind of self-improvement, if you will, the greatest investment you can make is in yourself. I mean, I didn't say that. Warren Buffett said it. And here's the investment guru of all times, right? The Oracle of Omaha. Because if you think about it, what is your greatest opportunity for value creation? It's your mind. It's your ability to connect with people and make those relationships that will then take you to places. Often, I mean, that's the thing I've discovered about podcasting. It's taken me to places I didn't even know I am capable of going until I started having these conversations.
And do you find that your strategy is the same? Do you find that your energy around it's the same? Do you do anything different selling on a podcast versus selling when you're out in the world or making phone calls or meeting people for real estate locally?
My strengths are still my hard skills and market knowledge and strategy. In fact, I was on a podcast earlier this week that was a real estate related. Everybody wants to talk about the market, what's, the predictions, because I've been through now 5 recessions and that muscle memory, what have I, lessons learned. So I still, my skills were used in different ways, but it's the same skills. I'm just reaching a bigger audience by doing it through podcasting.
I'm curious, Karen, because while podcasting has integrated really nicely into your real estate business and into just your overall brand promotion, I think you've done it masterfully. There's so many different philosophies behind how to make money podcasting and how to use selling as or using your podcasting as a sales tool. JJ uses it as a community builder, which in turn builds a community for her, which in turn will buy products and services from her. I use it for my guest seat and for the JV partners that I'm able to create. You have a really nice combination of those two things, but I want to create a scenario so maybe those that are, hey, I really just want to focus on podcasting. I don't want to focus on all these other things that I'm doing for a moment. If I took a magic wand and I said, and I don't want to do this in a negative way, Karen, but if I took all of those other things outside of your podcast away from you, what would you use your podcast to sell?
Coaching. The beautiful thing about coaching is you could do it really from anywhere, whatever schedule you want to do. If you think about what is the greatest resource, one of the greatest resources is time, because it's finite in the sense that once you've used the time. So if you can find ways to use the time, the idea that you can achieve where, not the boundaries of physicality, then you have much more freedom. And again, that's why I like podcasting, because many people that write books, go on the speaking tour, and I just saw, wow, that's a lot of moving around. And I'm sure I'll meet a lot of interesting people, and I'll get to go to Cleveland, but I just saw that as a lot of physicality to it, right? And if you think about where our future is with the pandemic, going online is like the place to be, right? I mean, we all look like we're really smart. We figured we did it before everybody else. So if you think about it, if you can coach on what your skill set is, and you can set it up in whatever parameters you want, and you can do it from wherever you are, that's where I would put my direction to. And podcasting is a great platform for finding coaching clients, right? Because they're attracted to your message, they're attracted to your style. I haven't changed. I mean, I'm still kind of the nerdy person who wants to tell you the statistics of why the real estate market's doing what it's doing. But I still care about you at the same time. So I'm not all nerd. I've also got this, relationship heart side. I'm still that same person.
Yeah, and it works. And that's what podcasting can provide people is, again, that platform, like you said, to reach so many more people that wouldn't know of you otherwise. And I know, when looking for a coach, they're going online and they're looking at podcasts and they're listening for a couple of seconds to determine if there's a connection. And if they like that person, if they don't, they move on to the next person. And in a way, it's great for you because it's not you prospecting them, it's them prospecting you. So you get to attract more through the podcast. So let's talk about what are the things that you offer, your show, anything that you offer people, how people can get in touch with you, where can they find out more about you, Karen, to either coach with you or learn more about your books. And maybe even if they live locally, about real estate.
Absolutely. Or refer me real estate. I mean, people are moving to Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C. metro region all the time. I am for the 5 Minute Success podcast. That's the number 5. And you can find that wherever you can find podcasts like Stitcher, Overcast, other places. And then the books are available on Amazon. I have 3 now: Real Estate Success in 5 Minutes a Day, Commit to Get Leads 66-Day Challenge for those people who need to make a commitment and jumpstart their business development prospecting. And then Flip Time, Love Life, which is the heroine's journey. And then the real estate side, which is really my main gig, is you can find me at HBC Group of Keller Williams, or you can Google Karen Briscoe and you'll find me there, or all the social media haunts that most people are on.
Well, Karen, thank you. I wanted to make sure that we talked about both sides of your business, the current, looking at what you're doing sort of off the podcast versus on the podcast, because again, the show really can serve anyone who's doing any kind of sales, because it's really the same application. And when you know who you're talking to and you know what you're talking about, you know what you're passionate about, it's the delivery and then figuring out how to streamline it, make it better. Like you said, I really enjoyed your pipeline conversation about the things that you need to be doing to fill that pipeline, because that's the marketing side that we're not talking about as much on this show, but it will come up, I'm sure. We really just wanted to put this out here for people to really understand that there's so many different styles. The bottom line is to be yourself. The bottom line is to care what you're selling. The bottom line is to be of service and make connection and to care. But how people go about that is very different from person to person. So we thank you for coming on Sales Training for Podcasters.
Well, I am delighted to be a part of this community and to have the conversation with you, Doug and JJ.
Excited to have you here, Karen. Thank you again. Thank you, JJ, for helping us out and putting it all together. Karen, very, very much. It would not be the same had I introduced a sales podcast or a sales training podcast for podcasters to the world without having you as a part of the community. So thanks for sharing, and looking forward to many more great podcasters coming on here, many more people in the world of sales coming on and sharing their expertise. Thanks again for being here, and talk to you real soon. Sales community, thanks for checking us out.
Thanks for listening to Sales Training for Podcasters. To get additional information and to access more amazing content that will boost your sales game, visit salestrainingforpodcasters.com. Hey, do us a favor. Rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, thanks for listening.